What up, Walt? Welcome to this episode of the Blunt Talk Quick Takes. I am your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable confines of Lake City, New Jersey. It is now April 8th, 2025. I thank you guys as always for listening. As always, like, share, and subscribe. This helps the channel. You can check Blunt Talk Quick Takes exclusively out on Podbean. However, if you're looking for more episodes on the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, you can check the show out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, and Trovo. And before we get started, guys, I want to give a shout out to friends of the show, StubHub. If you're looking for the best and the number one leading ticket seller, reseller for live shows, events, and concerts, look no further than to StubHub. There's a lot of events going on right now. Also, check out StubHub's UK affiliate via GoGo. I'll have links in the description of this podcast and this live stream. There's a lot of things that are popping right now in the UK. Lady Gaga, Shakira. If any of you like concert getters out there, you're definitely looking to get out to hear some great music. Definitely check it out. But nonetheless, hopping right into things, the Blunt Talk Quick Taste guys. I thank you guys. If any of you are at work or enjoying a day off when you're listening to the show today, I just always want to thank you as always. And again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Anyway, hopping right into it. First thing we're going to talk about is something that I didn't really get the chance to discuss at length in my last episode going over the owners meetings because it was a proposal that was brought up by the Lions. So if you do get a chance, check out that was episode 105. I was able to post an episode and talk within that episode. I talked about the Lions having a proposal where essentially Brad Holmes wanted illegal contact, the first down, the automatic first down penalty for illegal contact. He wanted that taken off and only for that to be a penalty of the 5 yard variety. But there was another interesting caveat that they had within there too. There was another proposal that they had to pretty much essentially would have wipe away divisions, and then the playoff seeding will be based off record instead of division record. I can't stress enough how shitty of an idea this was. I just thought the Lions were kind of batshit crazy. I mean, I knew they bitched a little bit, because they had to run into the Commanders and they felt like that was a game that they shouldn't have had to have played. A lot of people that were Vikings fans that were bitching about having to go on the road, even though it was a neutral site in Arizona, play the Rams, which the Rams handed them their ass. Just a lot of bitching going around, 14, 15 win, delusional teams that really think they're good. They're good and essentially are upset because they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So I didn't really, I reported on it, but didn't really pay too much mind to it. However, I'm glad that I did dig a little bit further as research showed via the athletic and profootballtalk.com. It seems like there was some higher influence going into that playoff seeding push by the Detroit Lions. Apparently from sources, Rob Wood, who is someone that works within the Lions front office, executive role. Essentially, he, griped and complained about the Lions having to play, the Commanders and how the seeding fell and the record wasn't, their record was better, so they should have a little bit more privilege, the normal bullshit that you steal whenever you lose an important game and you are quote unquote the better team. That being said, as things played out, eventually he got a call from Troy Vincent, executive football, vice president of football operations, excuse me, for the NFL. He contacted him and said, tapped him on the shoulder and said, we might be with you on this. This might be something that we could be able to push through. And essentially what it boils down to, nuts and bolts of it, is this is something the commissioner wanted. The commissioner wanted this to go through. Like I said, it was prompted by Troy Vincent, but how vice president of football operations. But nonetheless, the emphasis that the commissioner has on this is that this emphasis would be on late season games still having meaning and value. And per the source, teams were not in concurrence with this measure, and this was being discussed during the owners' meetings. And like I said, as previously stated, teams were not in concurrence with this measure, and the commissioner was apparently irritated due to this. I'm glad. I'm glad because this is a measure that should definitely not go through. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever when you consider the fact that divisions have been around for forever. You play certain teams 2 times a year for a reason because divisions matter. Rivalry games matter. I don't give a damn that a team that was 14 or 13 or 14 wins lost in the first round. If you were good enough, you wouldn't have got your ass whipped. That's the beauty of parity. That's the beauty of the NFL. You could be a 13-win team and play a 7 or 8 win team and get your ass whipped. You could be a 14-win team and play a 9-win team, a 10-win team, just like the Rams were, a 10-win team against Minnesota and beat that ass. The Commanders, 12 wins, playing a 14-win Detroit team, beat that ass. It's just a bunch of excuses, and it's very disheartening, and it's very disgusting that the tush push was being thrown in our face as the major argument. They're talking player health and safety, but yet you got this shit going on, revamping the seating and the schedule, which is essentially the push for the longer games. I mean, Commissioner Goodell is not really fooling anybody. This shit is a ploy for more money. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth because you kind of long for how the old NFL a little bit was, judged and ruled over, because it just seems like everything is just a cash grab for this guy. A lot of shit doesn't really make sense. And I don't really agree with this at all. And I'm glad the teams didn't agree with it either. Going a bit further, the next thing I want to talk about is some further NFL related news. Jets head coach Aaron Glenn also spoke at the owners meetings, and some of those interviews I'm pretty sure some of you guys have heard by now. If you haven't, definitely check it out. While in the interview, Aaron Glenn stated that the team will be using a running back by committee approach, utilizing all three running backs. Now, if you aren't a New York Jets fan or you're familiar with the Jets roster, their starting running back is Breecehall. Second string running back is Braylon Allen, who is a second year player now out of Wisconsin. And Isaiah Davis was third string running back. And I don't quote me. I don't have the information here in front of me. I do apologize. I forget what college Isaiah Davis went to, but nonetheless, he's a third string running back for the New York Jets. I like this approach. Before I dive into that though, I do think the media bias with this is a bit overhyped. The media is kind of freaking the fuck out because at Florham Park, New Jersey, there isn't any drama. There isn't any off-season bullshit going on. There's no quarterback drama going on. The Jets are finally having a quiet off-season where they can actually focus on their team, focus on roster building, focus on implementing their culture and their plan. And it just seems like to me where the media was kind of reaching for something. They read a little bit into Bryce Hall's cryptic tweet. And for those of you that haven't seen it, check out my short on YouTube and Patreon. I definitely posted it, and you can definitely check it out. However, in Bryce Hall's Twitter page, and by all means, check it out there, the original source. But nonetheless, it was just very startling to me that they kind of read that deep into it. I just kind of feel like maybe Bryce Hall was basically stating that they should have been using the running backs all along, that the passing game wasn't as good as it should have been or projected to have been, and the running backs needed to have been utilized a lot more. And that seems what my personal opinion could be. Again, by all means, comment and, tell me what your personal opinion is. But I just think that's a whole bunch of bullshit that the media is just trying to hype up. The Jets are finally having a focused, quiet, methodical offseason, and it's scaring the media because they don't really have any news to give you salaciously from that, fucked up organization, lack of better words. Going next, we're going to go and stay with the NFL. We're going to go into a team who has had it very rough the past couple of years, but is starting to find their way. The Carolina Panthers. The reporter from The Athletic spoke with Dave Canales. So this report is per The Athletic. And Dave Canales sat and spoke on a lot of different things: family, football, camaraderie, loyalty, a lot of great things. It was a very good read. If you guys don't have it in the description, if you guys will definitely implore you to check it out. While doing the interview, though, he spoke on some things that I definitely wanted to touch on in this episode. He spoke on positivity and a great opportunity with Bryce Young going into year two, this being the second year coaching Bryce Young. A lot of great things that he touched on. He spoke on believing in Bryce Young and not wavering on his belief, and stated that Bryce could play better. And this is what was interesting. During the final 10 games last year, you had 6 game-winning drives by Bryce Young, which was amazing, which is basically what they were looking for when they drafted him number one. In the final 10 games, he had a 61.8% completion percentage. He threw for 2,104 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He started to come on. Dave Canales, I think, tapped into what this guy is good at. And Dave Canales, since the days in Seattle, being the quarterback's coach with Geno Smith, has been kind of labeled the quarterback whisperer. So this is a great thing. I'm very much excited for Bryce Young. He took a lot of hell in year one. CJ Stroud having the year he had, and the team, just imploding, and the owner being an incompetent asshole. It just really just put the team in a bad situation. But all due respect, the owner finally then made the right decisions by getting a good GM, getting the good coach. In my opinion, I do like Dave Canales as head coach. I do think he has his team on the right track. And then another thing that he spoke on in this interview, which I thought was major, was accountability. Something that I think lacks in today's society a lot, and especially a young football team. This is something that you don't really hear about. You hear it spoken of loosely. You don't really hear it emphasized. They have something in Carolina which is called Tell the Truth Mondays, which I thought that was very dope, and that's actually quoted Tell the Truth Mondays. And it's essentially an accountability meeting on what they did good, what they did bad, what needs to be fixed, what can't be done going forward, and what needs to be sustained for the team to have the positive outlook that they're requiring going forward. I like Dave Canales. I do expect the Carolina Panthers, with all this said, to take a nice step forward. I don't know if playoffs are in their future, depending on their draft and depending on how the rest of the free agency going into training camp shapes out. I do believe that they could be even better just with camaraderie and more familiarity with Dave Canales' playbook. But make no mistake, the pressure is still on with an incompetent owner, with Bryce Young, still looking better, but still not really turning a curve and making people feel good about the selection as Houston feels about CJ Stroud and some other teams have felt in the past about their rookie selections. The pressure is still on, but I definitely like the direction that David Canales has his team on and looking forward to. And if you're a Panthers fan, you have to be excited. And last but not least, wrapping up this episode, we're going to touch on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Of the Toronto Blue Jays finally securing the bag, reaching an agreement with the Toronto Blue Jays on a 14-year, $500 million contract. This is all pending a physical. Now, don't quote me right now, guys. I do believe at this time the physical has already taken place, but if it hasn't, I will have it in the show notes if I misspoke. So I want to get that out there. Nonetheless, this was fantastic news for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Sucks for me as a Yankees fan. I do think I thought that there was a chance that the Yankees could potentially give Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but however, he did state throughout the offseason that he wanted to stay in Toronto. He just wanted them to, stop being so fucking cheap and just open the bag up and pay him. And the Toronto Blue Jays did the right thing by him and made sure they got him the bag. Looking forward, going into the details, this is the second largest guarantee in Major League Baseball history. Obviously, of course, Juan Soto, formerly the New York Yankees, now the New York Mets, is number one with his 15 years, $765 million contract. His numbers are outstanding. And diving further in Vladimir Guerrero's deal, it's $35.71 million of an average annual value, which is the 11th highest ever without hitting the open market per the Athletic. So shout out to Vlad Guerrero Jr. for securing the bag. Not he could have handled it in so many ways, being messy, being, trash in the organization, shitting on the Blue Jays like a lot of guys have in the past. However, he handled it correctly. I think it's deep that his father played for Montreal, then, later on for the Angels and, further on in his career, the great career that Vladimir Guerrero had. So it's deep for me that he wanted to stay in Toronto. This is a team that took a chance on him. So I definitely understand the loyalty. Shout out to Vlad Guerrero Jr. again for securing the bag and for the Blue Jays for not being incompetent and finally for paying one of their great players. But nonetheless, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Blunt Talk Quick Takes. I love you guys and thank you as always for listening. Again, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.